starting. Okay. All right, so welcome to today's webinar. Really looking forward to this. I call this a deeper dive into the stages of change, because people don't buy products. You don't tell them about it and then they buy it the next day. And we already know that, being in Launch Club and being, thinking about launching in terms of a PLF style. But this is really powerful content, and it's really, as I've said here, you just never want to use this content in a manipulative way. You'll see how you will be able to. And if you do, well, whatever, you see what I think about that right there. It's just not that cool. Okay. Now I'm going just to you can go ahead and type whatever you want in the chat box, but I want you to know I'm ignoring you on purpose because it's distracting for me, so I won't be looking at that. Let's see. So we're going to go over, in the next 45 minutes, we're going to do this deeper dive, and I really want to help you bring some solid science to marketing. And it should, for those of you in Jeff Walker land, it should really affirm the whole methodology, because the product launch formula method maps right on top of what I'm going to show you. I think this goes into it a little deeper, and it might give you some ideas. 2 and 3, bringing the science of to your marketing and the signs and signals that'll indicate where your avatar is right now. Those two, you're going to see they're sort of blended together. And I'm going to end really quickly with, how to, I'm going to show you 9 change processes. I'm going to go through those super fast. It's outside the context. It's just outside the scope to be able to go into them, but at least I will give you a little bit of that. Now, I want to do, I just want to show you something really quick. Psychiatrists and psychologists are often treated as if they're the same. I'm a psychologist. Psychiatrists, this is what they do. They go to medical school and they use medicine basically to have an impact on symptoms. And for the most part, psychiatric care is palliative, right? It stays focused on symptoms. Psychology is actually supposed to do something called permanent change. And so we go for cures. So psychology studies change processes. So I'm just going to show you this book. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see, I need to get to a different screen to see what you can see. Yeah. And just to give you context, so this is one of the books in my library for how I've learned what I've learned. And I'm just going to show you that what you're learning today is 1, 2, about 6 pages in just this book. Really powerful stuff, but there's a lot to. I'm saying that because I want you to really appreciate how difficult change actually is for people. So if you want to move, if you want to be in the world of helping people change, a little bit of honoring of how difficult that journey is a smart thing. Okay, so super quick recap. I'm not like super quick. I showed you this last week. We taught it. We went through it. I'm going to do the thing about this is I taught you this in a linear sequence, right? You start at step 1, you go to step 8. That is the best way to go through it. It's also it's super efficient. It's really effective. And, when you're teaching something, you actually have to create a model, that it's easy for people to grasp. But this is what real life actually looks like. Those 8 steps for human beings, when they show up in your program, are all over the place, and they can go in all sorts of sequences. And this is not bad. I mean, honestly, that's a cooler picture than the first one. And life is like this. It's organic. It's not all linear like we try to make it when we put together a training program. So your whole point in coaching, or whatever you're doing, whether you're coaching or teaching or counseling or marketing, the whole point of that really is to just meet people where they are and then help them move forward a step or 2. And when you can, you sort of go back and pick up a step or 2. And there's nothing wrong with that. My contention to you, though, is if you are interested in permanent change, at some point, all 8 of these steps need to happen for that person. So just, keep that in mind. gift from Jennifer Brenton when we were talking about this was she saw this image and she said something like, you know, your business, you know, this could be a JV partner plan. Like you do one part of that and somebody else is doing another part of that, and eventually the entire change process is covered. That's a genius idea. I'm going to do a little something more with that down the road. Okay. I just realized I hadn't changed screens for you. My apology. So here's the linear one that I said I taught you. And this is the image that I was just talking about. I'm sorry I didn't advance that screen. This is what life is like. It looks a lot, it's messy and cooler than a nice, neat and tidy line. But so people, this is what people are like. And so we just meet them where they're at and we move them forward a step or two in the change process and back in a step or two. Now I'm going to put this particular thing in a larger model that was created by these two. And I'm not going to read all of that for you, but I put it on there so that you could read it. And I also put it on this slide so that you could understand that people who have spent, James Prohaska and Carlos DiClemente have been working at change, you know, as a university faculty and researchers for over 30 years. And just one of them has received $60 million in federal grants to study change around really hard things like smoking and weight loss and trauma and drug abuse. So these guys know what they're talking about. They don't have to market it. They're just trying to understand people. And take a look at this quote is taken from James Prohaska, and he says, "What the vast majority of people with mental health or behavioral problems never seek therapy." You can hear that. Like the majority of people who could really benefit from your product will never ask for it. So what makes people ask for it? What makes people ask for it and continue in it? This is all they've been doing. And importantly, I'm just sort of putting this out there to show you that professionals, scientists who've been studying this will tell you that the results you're getting in your courses are typical. But their whole point in their research is we have to not treat that status quo like it's okay, that we have to get better. So what causes people to progress through your course? It's therapy in here, but what's, you know, so their answers is to those questions is it depends on where they are in the change process, in the stage of change. Now, I'm messing with your head a little bit. Last training, I talked about the science of change, and that is the interior of a human being. We're talking about stages of change today, and it's huger. I know I need to create better names for this so I don't confuse you, but today I'm confusing you. Let me show you. Change happens over time, and there are kind of 3 levels of change, and this top level with traits is extremely difficult. It's nearly impossible to take somebody who has the trait of introversion and turn them into an extrovert. You can move in that direction, but it is very difficult. On the other hand, a state is piece of cake to change. At PLF, or at the Live, at Con, at Launch Club, how many times do we stand up, turn the music on, listen to it, jump around, clap, hug each other? That's changing state. And if you watch the next time we do that, you will see that, in fact, states change almost instantaneously. So traits are unchanging and states change all the time. In between are these stages, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Stages are relatively enduring, but they're open to intervention. So we can, with effort and with, I'll call it the right effort at the right time, we can move people through the stages of change. So here are the stages. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go back because I want to tell you one more thing. There are only, I've put here special interventions, right? There are only 3 things that move people along a change path in this stages of change, moving them along the stage path. And that is developmental things happen, environmental events happen, or planned intervention. So a developmental thing would be like, well, here's an example. People, the average age for people who are trying to quit smoking, for them to quit smoking is 39. Now, that's not just, I don't think there's any magic in that. What happens at 39 in people's lives? They start looking forward and start looking back, and they're going like, yeah, I'm closer to half done than a third of the way done, because nobody knows anybody who lives to be 120. So just turning an older age, the typical person who walks in my office is in their 40s. That's because that's a developmental thing that's going on in their head. There's a second thing, which is environmental, and some kind of an event happens. The military in America did not have any trouble recruiting people the day after 9/11 in 2001, because that was the 9/11 2001 was the day that the World Trade Centers were hit by jets, by airplanes, and that environmental event increased enlistments in the military like instantly overnight. Planned interventions, the third one, what we're doing in our lives, teaching, coaching, consulting, marketing, planned interventions to help people move from where they are to where they could be. So here are the stages. I'm going to go through these super quick, and then we're going to go into them deeper. So the first one is pre-contemplation, and the person has no intention to take any action. The next one is contemplation. They're thinking about doing something next 6 months, next year. They're thinking about it. Preparation, now they actually do a little something. Let me move this. There we go. Yeah, let's try that there. This is in, there we go. Yeah, so they're trying to, let's see, we're in preparation. Yeah, they've done a little something, and they have a change plan. And then action is where everybody thinks people are going to be when they come see you for help. And they practically are never there, by the way, practically never. But that's where you can actually see. This is the first time anybody with a video camera can actually see a bunch of behavior going on. And then after they've taken action, then they achieve something, and they're in maintenance mode. And maintenance lasts for about 6 months to 5 years. I'm going to go into more about that. And then relapse happens. Yes, relapse happens. Relapse is the norm. Relapse happens after people do maintenance. And then what happens? So let's get over here in this. So what happens with maintenance is that the relapse happens, and then either people quit down here, they just go back into contemplation, or they go around again, and they go around again. And then eventually they create a stable lifestyle. And in psych, we call that termination. So the norm is multiple cycles of this. That's the norm. It's practically unheard of that somebody starts in pre-contemplation, goes around once, and gets into stable lifestyle. So when you're thinking about helping somebody in a planned intervention move through those stages, it's really helpful, I think. This is a little 2x2 that I have in my head, and I'm going to call that pinkish color red because it's easier for me to say. It's probably mauve, and of course you see the blue. So the question for people is to change or to not change, and when they change, it is because the positive part, the pleasure of changing has gone up, and the negative part, the pain island, the cons of changing has gone down. Hence the two pinkish mauve red boxes there. When people change, that's the two things that happen. And when they don't, they're thinking a lot about how hard it's going to be to change, and that the payoff isn't really worth it. So the pro of staying the same, of the status quo, is low, and the con of changing is really high. Now, here's the thing that I think that here's a tip, I think, or a couple of takeaways from this slide. I mean, you could download this slide, you can make your own 2x2, or you can just, create papers, and collect this in any way you want. But I think with your marketing material and with any kind of coaching, but let's just stick with marketing material. You can collect all of the information that you have and figure out which box it goes into. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're selling yoga. Well, then you're sitting there with your grandma in the nursing home, or your mom, and you're flipping through nursing home trade magazine or something, and you read an article that it says the primary reason people are in nursing homes are mobility issues. And because you're teaching yoga, you go boom, boom, boom. And so then you go home and you write in these two cells, in whatever way you want to word it, that people aren't doing yoga because they don't have any idea about mobility issues in nursing homes being the main reason for admission. So then, you start writing your marketing about nursing homes and about mobility issues, and you happen to drop in there that yoga is one of the better ways to get through that. So you can take any kind of research information, any kind of intellectual or emotional information that you have, and you can start stacking them in these 4 cells. And I'm going to show you why you want to do that, because it makes it really easy to help your avatar move from where they are to the next stage if you're collecting and organizing all of this information up front. I think there's another thing that everybody could do with their testimonials, which is you could deconstruct those testimonials. And I think a good testimonial, frankly, is going to hit on all of those cells, like how I started, how the pain in me started going up if I stayed the same, and how my imagination about how good it would be if I could change was going up. I think a good testimonial, you'll see that you could deconstruct it and kind of put the statements in various ones of these cells. And I think, one of the reasons to maybe do that is then in your copy for your launch, you can take your testimonials and you can, instead of using an entire testimonial in one spot, you can deconstruct that and put it in the various pieces of that testimonial in other spots. And that will become more clear as I go through all of these stages. But just think about it, that for people to change, they have to move from this box to this box, from this box to this box, and that a planned intervention is helping them do that. Now, so let's go to pre-contemplation. Pre-contemplation, of course, is what psychologists call things, because we call things that are really, we make up like names that nobody wants to use. So we're going to call this this stage, we're going to call it, wait, what? What? I didn't know that mobility issues were the main reason that people were in nursing homes. What? Okay. When you get somebody to go, wait, what did you just say? You just helped move them a little bit into contemplation, because the state that they're currently in is like, problem? What problem? You can't move. So I'm all right. I have a little walking sticks. They're fine. You like the idea of nursing home living? No, not really. Why? Well, did you know the main reason that people are in nursing homes and mobility issues? What? Wait, what did you say? Okay, so this is the problem, what problem group. And when you think about how could I get them to say, wait, what did you just say? Then that's how you want to try to reach. So they're uninformed, they're underinformed. Sometimes they're demoralized because they've tried stuff and it hasn't worked. And you'll see in a moment, again, why that is. And this group avoids reading, talking, thinking about the problem that they're facing. So, an intervention really is like try to get them to read, send them something that they could read, help them talk a little bit about it. They're called unmotivated and resistant to blame it on them, I think. But if we were to blame it on ourselves, it's because we haven't done what I'm calling the intervention, which is getting them more accurate information. And why is that? I'm going to flip back to this previous slide, because here we go. Because this group always underestimates the benefits of changing. They always underestimate. They don't, like, you can't get them over here in the pros of changing, because they really don't know, and they're wrong. I mean, literally, their information is wrong. They underestimate the benefit of changing, and they overestimate down here. They're overestimating the cons for changing. They just think it's going to be too much. So the intervention is get them accurate information. Get them accurate information. Help them think it through. Help them question their own misinformation. That's how you want to think about this. Okay, then the next stage is contemplation. And of course, psychologists call it contemplation. We're going to call it there's no free lunch. This is I'm going to take that word out. There we go. This is there's no free lunch group. Now, this is a really important stage to understand, I think. So they're planning to do something in the next 6 months. Why aren't they going to do it tomorrow? Because they have profound ambivalence about changing. You do not have to, go back to the slide again, you don't have to convince them of the pros of changing. That's already high. In fact, you'll irritate them if you spend a lot of time trying to talk them into the really good idea that they already have. They already know the pros. The problem is that the cons of changing are so high. So, like, yeah, I'm super hungry. I want this cheese. It's going to kill me, right? If I go get the cheese, that's how that's going to play out, right? And this group is in pain. And in fact, a lot of procrastination is actually chronic contemplation. And what are they? So they're like sitting here hungry for your product, hungry for what you have, but they're also super aware of the cost of it. And the interventions on that, and we already do this with marketing. One of them is to actually reduce the cons of changing it, like you reduce your price, or you put in a 90 days all your money back guarantee. So you're helping to reduce the con. Sometimes you can't do that, so you can help them manage it. So you can't reduce the price, you give them a payment plan. That helps them manage the thing a little better. And the third one is really underused and underappreciated. And I'm going to spend a few minutes on this because I think there's so much pay dirt in here. And honestly, I think we have a responsibility here. You help them change the perception about the cost of not changing. And in Launch Club, right, we call this the cost of the void. Now, here's a question. Look, if they're planning to change in 6 months, what's the big deal? Just wait them out. Just wait them out. Well, this chronic contemplation is the big deal, and I'm going to use myself as an example in here. I bought PLF, I think 4 years ago or 5, a long time ago. I played with it barely. If we go back here, yeah, I went around the cycle a little bit, tried a little something, nothing happened, put it aside for a while, and then, did enough and was connected to the community enough that, I ended up in Platt eventually. And then when Platt went away, I went into Launch Club, and I've been in Launch Club from the beginning. And now here's the deal. Remember, let's go back. Remember, 3 ways that people move through stages. One is developmentally. Another one is an environmental event. And the third one is if a planned intervention happens, and that's marketing. And now I'm super interested in launches right now. Why? And just imagine if I'd had one of those balls that the psychics look into the future. If I had known 15 months ago, or if I had known that 15 months ago, my nephew Adam was going to dive into water and break his neck and have the health issues and the money related to that, would I have waited? Would I have been a chronic contemplator? No. I'm not contemplating anymore. That's an environmental change. And, one of the things in marketing is probably to try to save people from themselves that way. So we kind of have to, this is a gift to Team Walker here. When I have this turned around, I will be very happy to be a part of the cost of the void with this story, because had I done all of what I will be doing over the next few months, had I done that 2 years ago, the year and a half, or it'll be a couple, 2, 3, 4 years really, I think, before people in my family won't have to worry about the money related to Adam's care. That's a lot of pain that could have been avoided by going sooner. So this chronic contemplation is something that really, I think, we responsibly have to pay attention to. We can't just go, okay, well, they're not ready to change. Well, they're in, but they're out. Like, yeah, but we have to help them see really the price of being out. You know, why wait? What happens when people wait? Bad things can happen. You know, there's no way you could have gotten me to take time away from sailing or other fun stuff that I love with the promise of like, go be a gazillionaire. But what if you need a bunch of money right away for some accident that happens? And with the healthcare that we have, who's going to do it? That never occurred to me. Okay, so people move from preparation or contemplation into preparation. And this is, you know, get ready, get set. You know, people are planning. These are the people who are doing all of the comments on your PLC content for your launch. They're typing in stuff. They've got the credit card out, and they're ready to do something. They may even purchase something. And the thing that's really this group, what you need to do with this group is really recruit them into like taking massive action. That helps move them forward. And the intervention for this group is like the quick start guides that we do, the downloadable PDFs, quick wins. Scott Anthony has a thing of saying, 1, 2, 3, make it easy for me. Like that, this is a group that is really impacted positively by that. And so your copy, there should be a lot of commentary about the pros of massive action. Like, yes, you can kind of, you know, sort of meander through this a little bit, but you could also like power through and this is what you're going to get by this time. Now, this is where almost everybody believes people are changing, right? Lift off. And that's, you know, if you're coaching and you're waiting for this as proof that people are growing, you're missing the boat, because all of that moving through those stages has to happen before people hit the push button and launch. And the intervention for this really is celebrating the action taking, because you already know the next stage is maintenance and then relapse. So even when the button has been pushed and launch, right? People are doing something and you can see it. The next stage is a rough stage. So you want to like celebrate action taking for itself. Good for you. Good for you. No results. You're not going to go for results. Like, good for you. Good for you. You did it. You did it. And you see, actually in Launch Club, we do that a lot for each other. And when people have done this, they need really expert guidance, because, you know, the rubber has finally hit the road here, and how to actually do it all. This is where coaching calls come in. And this is where expert coaching, like in this one, somebody will be asking something like, hey, should we use Infusionsoft or should we use ClickFunnels? And my answer would be, I don't know, go ask Donna, because she's the expert, or go ask Mark, or go ask somebody, right? Expert guidance, you know, where the rubber hits the road is what people need at this stage. Move them to maintenance. And what's going on in maintenance is they're working the right steps, not as often as they were before they were doing action, and they've got some traction going, and it's they can coast here a little bit, because I mean, they've pushed through, and what they don't know usually, and what you're needed for, because this is you know, if I were to put a picture here now, I probably would use like a picture with a little boogeyman under a bed with a really happy kid, adult, you know, really excited about, I've made it. Yeah, except there's a little thing under the bed you don't know about, which is it takes a long time. Practically nobody in the maintenance stage really is accurate about how long permanent change actually takes. And I will give you an example. It was a while before I heard Jeff Walker say how long he thought being in Launch Club, how long it would take for people to get to maintenance. And he said 3 years, and it's actually probably 5 years. And I'm meaning that's the science of that. Most people are in maintenance from 6 months to 5 years. And if they're in maintenance for 6 months, they're out of it because they relapsed, or they're into the next stage, which is called termination, because they've gone around the stages of change cycle enough that they finally have leveled up enough that now the 6 months means they're done. But that whole process, probably about 5 years. And if they do maintenance long enough, they don't automatically have to go back to relapse either. So the intervention here is really to prep people for the long haul. You know, everybody wants a quick fix. I do. I'll take any quick fix you can give me. If it's quick and it fixes, I'm good. But that isn't how most change happens. And so in this maintenance phase, you know, the marketing, the coaching through the process is really helping educate people how long things will take and what they can realistically hope to accomplish in what amount of time. And that's where your expertise in the area that you're teaching in, you know, I mean, I can tell people how long psychologically it will take to get them from where they're at in a depression to where they don't have it. And so some of what I have to tell people right away is like, you can get there. You can get to, you know, all the way through that thing and have a permanent lifestyle where you don't get depressed anymore. It will take you about this long. So that's where your expertise in your area, this is a big deal for helping people. And I think it's a big deal in your marketing. If you think about your marketing, not just getting people in, but keeping people moving once you've got them in, this is a big deal. So, you know, part of the preparation is, and I'm using recovery and coping, somebody told me that I might be thinking too much about treatment, and treatment as in something wrong. I don't think of people's growth as something wrong, but I do think recovery and coping these are things that it would be nice for people to know ahead of time before they needed them, because this is called relapse, but in our group here, we're going to call it 1 martini, 2 martini, 3 martini floor, because I think that's funny. Most people, now this might not be in other parts of the world, as I said in the first webinar, I'm talking about the world that I know, which is the Western world. And most people in the Western world cope with hard times, because most relapse happens when people have hard times. Almost always, people relapse when they're under emotional stress of some kind, and that it can be of any kind. It can be any kind of stress, really. It can be an injury. It can be something happening in the marriage, a complication with the children, something happening with weather. I mean, all sorts of things can happen. And so the stress comes on, and most people, without knowing it, cope in all the wrong ways, right? So they quit all the good stuff they're doing, or it comes down, and then they drink more, eat more, smoke more, take more street drugs, more meds, whatever. And so the intervention really is to encourage the good stuff. And these are the 3 things that help everybody recover. And so this is not guessing stuff. This is hard science. If you want the 3 best things for people to move from recovery back into any change plan that you have set up for them, any one of those 3 or a combination of those 3 is what gets people back on track. So you do have to, I mean, I always think, well, then you kind of need your own exercise program. You need your own meditation prayer program. You need your own talking to someone else who's helpful. I mean, you need to model being able to cope and stay on the plan. And, you know, I think most of us have more respect for Jeff Walker because he uses, and we know it and we can see the effect of it, that he's got a meditation practice that is very admirable. So the point in terms of moving people through the stages of change is that if you can help them in that recovery part, get back in that circle, then yay, then you're a part of their permanent change. And this is what happens next. This is what Launch Life Baby actually is. It's termination. And when you get there, you actually have a lifestyle change, and the person you're helping or you're on autopilot. Like, I've got all the chat covered up. I don't know who's here, but let's just say Donna is here. Does anybody think Donna, Team Walker Donna, is going to go out today and relapse into eating a cheeseburger. No, this is permanent. We already know that the autopilot for Donna is going to be something like, woohoo, look at these vegetables and this and that I just blended into this amazing vegan. And look at Donna. I mean, Donna looks like she's 17 years old and can, bench press a heifer. I mean, right? This is lifestyle. It doesn't mean it doesn't take effort, but she doesn't have to talk herself into it, right? She's on autopilot that way. Her reptilian brain, right? The robot brain, total robot. She walks in a grocery store or the farmer's market. She's already going over to the organic section. She knows where the organic section is in every grocery store she shops in. I don't. That would take effort for me. It's effortless for her. When people get to this stage, which psychologists call termination, it's like the previous lifestyle didn't even exist. So now I'm going to go back here. If you're marketing to people in pre-contemplation and you tell them that they can get up here into stable lifestyle without understanding the incredibly long journey and difficult journey that they will have to do, your marketing is going to be either like unethical, since now you know this, or it's just going to be ineffectual. And so, my whole point in bringing some of this to you is like to say, I think we can bring this stuff in here and, improve marketing, but also improve outcomes for people. Now, so quick reframe of something that we hear all of the time to just get you to think about how do these two map together? When we in the launch world, when we talk about growing your list, we mean usually that means going from sending out your first email to 19 people, but really it's 17 because one of them went to your second email address and the other one went to your wife. Growing it from 17 to 90,000 or whatever Jeff Walker's current list is. I have no idea. That's usually what we mean by growing your list. And in a way, if you were thinking about that in the stages of change model, it would be, I want to move people from pre-contemplation into contemplation or preparation, into a point where they're willing to take the action of buying the product. And so in a way, it isn't that we stop there, but some people might be stopping there. I mean, once we've moved them from, wait, what? I can have freedom and I can make a good living and I can do good. Wait, what? I didn't know I could work from anywhere. Right. So got your attention. The marketing got the attention. And then a little bit of like, here's a way to do it. But eventually, I think we all have to say, yeah, but how many people go from pre-contemplation into lifestyle, into a permanent lifestyle change? Because that's kind of hard work. And so I have another way of thinking about grow your list, which is grow your list by helping more and more and more and more and more people move through every single one of those stages. And so that you really, like, I'll put it this way, like, maybe the thing to be super proud of isn't the size of your list. Maybe it's the size of your lifestyle changed people. Like, that's another way to really think about growing my list. How many people was I able to help move through the entire process? Now, it's just a reframe that's helpful to me to think about. And, part of why I bring it up here, there's a little defensive thing in it, because I get called out on this idea of permanent change when I bring it up at Launch Club, and I'm sort of told, like, you need to get over that a little bit. And I'm like, I'm never going to get over that, people. I'm never going to get over that, ever. I think we need to get serious about getting people all the way through that whole change process, all the way to lifestyle. And I think a few people doing that, like, maybe that's not good enough. Maybe we should be thinking about how do you get a majority of the people through that process. No, that's hard, but I still think we ought to think about it. Isn't it interesting that this acorn to oak tree is 8 stages? I actually read this article. I'm not going to go into it, but I thought, isn't that interesting that it's 8 stages there? Okay, now I have a few more minutes. I'm going to end up with something that will take me probably most of the time, remaining time to get through. But I was going to do a lot more of this, but then I started practicing this, and like, there's no way I can do all of this for you in one session that your butt can take. So I have 5 minutes to do this, so let's do it. All right, so remember these guys? Let's go back up here. Remember these guys? They studied they took this $60 million over 30 years and studied that. So that they did a comparative, it's called a comparative analysis. You look at, what changed and how changed. And they compared over 300 therapies that were known to work for something. This couldn't have been done before computers and computing. So thank you, tech people, again. So they looked at those over 300 therapies, and this is what they came up with, and this is why I love science. They came up with this finding. There are only 10 processes of change, and I can't go into all of these, but I'm going to give you an example from every single one of them. Now, if you're really observant, you notice that 10 processes of change at the top, and I'm only doing 9 because the 10th one is absolutely unrelated to what we're doing here, so I'm not going to bother. All right, so what is consciousness raising? And I'm going to do these all in the context of a particular client in a particular context, because change processes ultimately, like permanent change, ultimately somebody probably needs a helper one way or the other, even if that's some helper that they perfectly connect with that helper as an author, and then they read everything. All right, so the art really of coaching, I think, is the combination of these particular things in the right moment. So let's say, and I'm going to use examples from my world, so because it's my world, and you'll have to translate to whatever it is, whatever world you're in, yoga, dentistry, I don't know. I'm not sure who. I don't know who's here, so I don't know the examples. Accounting, but so I'm giving you examples from my world. So verbal abuse. So consciousness raising. How I might use that particular process if there was verbal abuse going on with a couple is I might say, researchers have figured out that emotional abuse actually resculpts your partner's brain. And if the person goes, what? I would say, you could actually be harming your partner's brain by what you say. I mean, I think we would all know that if you hit your partner in the head, you'd expect a little brain injury. But you probably don't know that when you're doing that, you're actually resculpting their brain. You are actually changing brain tissue with verbal abuse. That's in that, like, wait, what? Right. Oh, the other thing to tell you is as we go down the list, these are more effective for, I put them in the order that they are effective for the stage of change. So that you can hear that's in the wait, what category, right? Dramatic relief. So this is related to the description of an abusive boss. And so I might say something like, I need an address. And then the client might say, what? Why? Well, I'm going to turn this over to my cousin Vinny. Let him handle this. About that time I wink, the person laughs, right? That's dramatic relief. Laughing, crying, dramatic relief. The third one, environmental reevaluation. The situation is I can't sleep. So the question might be, hey, how much light is coming into your bedroom? I mean, do you have any of those darkening curtains? Or I might say, how hot do you keep your bedroom? Because I'm trying to get like dark, cool, but warm under the blankets. That's a really good environment for people to sleep. So that's the kind of question for environmental reevaluation. How about self-reevaluation? Same issue, can't sleep. How much coffee do you drink? That might be one. And when do you stop drinking? Because, right, caffeine. And the next one might be, hey, when you're laying there awake all night, you can't sleep, and you're ruminating about stuff, about how often do you come up with a really good plan about what to do next? I mean, the answer is going to be not much. So, I mean, the point of that is self-reevaluation. Are you actually helping yourself by removing from yourself the responsibility for good sleep. Would you get more progress if you had good sleep and then could act on that? Okay, so that's self-evaluation. Self-liberation. This one is actually one that is coming up for one of my clients. Mother-in-law keeps making fun of her pies. So what I said was, how empty would your life be if she never approves of you? I mean, could you be okay knowing that she's just like that? She's probably pretty miserable, and that there's no super clever response that you could probably come up with either ahead of time or in the moment to actually change her. I mean, could you just give yourself permission to not change her? Okay, that's what self-liberation can sound like in my world. Contingency management. How about for a person who's not working out in the morning and that's the best time for them to work out in the morning? Okay, here's a plan. Pack your gym bag the night before, sleep in your workout clothes, set your alarm to go off with music that you love, that makes you happy and hopeful, and turn the heat up in your garage. This is in Milwaukee. Turn the heat up in your garage so when you get in the car, it will be warm. Okay, that's contingency management. That's setting, it's an ABC model. The A is antecedents. It's setting things up for success and then a reward after the behavior. And so you would add into that one. And why don't you meet your best friend after you work out for coffee? Okay. Seventh one is helping relationship. I'm not going to go into that because that's called coaching or teaching or counseling or consulting or any of that. So the eighth one, counter conditioning. Counter conditioning is making stronger the opposite thing. Or so if smoking is like such a nice relief, but you put this doesn't always work, but it helps some people, but you put a rubber band here and every time you go for a cigarette, you pull on the rubber band and you snap it a little bit. And so you give yourself a little bit of pain. Like right now, the pain of smoking for most people tends to be when they're 75 and they have emphysema. It doesn't tend to be in the moment. So you're trying to, condition some pain with that. And the counter conditioning is getting pleasure for things that are opposite of the negative behavior. I'm not going to go into that, but that's what counter conditioning is. Stimulus control. Let's say the problem is procrastination. I might tell somebody who's procrastinating to clean up your place. And why is that? Because clutter increases procrastination. The stimulus for procrastinating is clutter. There are other ones, but stimulus control is like, well, get rid of the clutter. That will help you get rid of some of the procrastination. So these are things you could learn to do, yes? Okay. All right, I didn't put that's all I got. All right, so now Donna's here, yay, okay. What is that book, Lisa? Oh, this book, and don't buy it. Seriously, don't buy it. It's written for psychologists. It's written by psychologists for psychologists. What I just taught you in 45 minutes is literally 3 pages out of it. If you want to go get a PhD, though, in clinical psych, not a bad idea. But if you're not going to be a clinical psychologist, you're going to be coaching, you honestly don't need all of what's in there. This would be like, if you want to do like EMT stuff, you don't need that. If you want to do brain surgery, you need to do that. So, the name of it is The Handbook of Psychological Change. And it's edited by Rick Schneider, but he always goes by C.R. Snyder, S.N. I'll put that somewhere. I'll put that information somewhere. Okay, at the end of the Lindsay. Yes, Lindsay, I can go back. The stages of change are right here. Oh, why people move through. Okay, yeah. Why they move through is they're either getting older. So like elementary age kids become harder to deal with because they become teenagers. So a developmental change, like 40-year-olds, there's a reason people get into therapy in their 40s. And I always say it's because they're strong enough. They finally developed enough internal strength to take on some of these things. They're not weaker, they're stronger. That's why they're in therapy. So that's a developmental change. The second one is an environment event. So the example, of course, that I used, example of my life, of course, Adam's injury has had a huge impact on me wanting to get uber efficient and effective with launches. And then the third one is what we do on purpose. And that's the whole point of this, right? The planned intervention, marketing as a planned intervention, teaching planned intervention, counseling, coaching, planned interventions, all planned. Okay. All right. So who is here anyway? Donna. Is this Donna as in Donna Team Walker?
Yes.
See why you're so good at what you do, Donna? You do this stuff like without thinking about it. Yeah, Lisa, God, it won't go there. Yeah, don't buy that book.
Just keep listening to Julie.
Yeah, I got done with my PhD when I was 36, people, and I started when I was 18. So, yeah, your launch needs to happen before you're done becoming a psychologist, for sure. And you don't need it. You know, I'd say it and I mean it. Most people don't need a psychologist. They need a little more psychology. You know, this is a little more. And this means you have more than most people. Seriously. Here's proof. I was this whole last thing that I was going to do. You know why I decided to not do that? As I was putting it together, I remembered that when Jennifer and I were together, I drew this little example on a napkin, and she was like, take a picture of that and going wild. Now, I do want to, here's the thing maybe that will help. These 8 steps, where are we at? So the last webinar, we're talking about those working really well here because you're coaching somebody directly or you're working with a small group directly. And so, that is when when this model should come into your mind, get them to focus on purpose. What are they really here for? Get them to see if they can face the truth. All the truth doesn't have to be all the truth. They're only going to choose one thing anyway. So this, I actually tried to, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I will later. I actually wanted to take this image and reduce it and put it right here. But that's where those two models go together. I meant to say that and I forgot. Okay. Are there any? I'm just trying to move this out of the way. Any other comments or questions? I will tell you that I'm going to go back to this and just say something since you're not bubbling all over with a whole bunch of questions. When Jennifer Brent and I met and we were talking about what she did after the first training, was that she went to and looked at this is a very interesting idea. She looked at every part of her products, all of her online stuff that she does and in-person stuff that she does too. And I don't know if you know Jennifer, but she's a genius. She's an OBGYN who's got huge and cool ideas about what to do for the world. And one of the things, especially around like reducing miscarriages, reducing the need for C-sections and other things through diet and other stuff, it's like really cut your belly open or change your diet. Yeah, okay, let's hear about the diet thing. So she has a lot of ideas about, how to do that. And when she was looking at her product, she was realizing, I'm doing a lot of this, maybe not in the right order, but maybe not even stuff I want to do, but it could be outsourced. And she started thinking that this actually was a JV plan. This is a JV map. Who can help people with logging and accountability? Who can help put the plan together? So part of what I like about the stages of change is it's a really big kind of, it's an overarching model about the life of a human being, I guess. And if you think about mapping your product and service on top of that, plus if you consider that your marketing is a part of your responsibility to help them change, because again, let's just go back to most of the people who could really benefit from your product are in pre-contemplation. They're in the, what? Wait, what? I didn't know that. They're in that. They are in that. So Like getting them out of that and then getting them out of contemplation is huge. Helping them really bring down the cons. Remember pre-contemplation? Like there's no free lunch. They know that. They want the lunch. They're hungry, but they know it's not free. The cost is looming. Like bring that cost, help them manage the cost. Bring that cost down. I'm not blaming anybody here, but as I said, the idea of what launching could do for me wasn't enough motivation. Will be doing and become, I think, super good at launches the traditional way, because the cost of the void, the sort of like chronic, like really the cost of like doing it is now sitting right next to what kind of pain have I created by not doing it? That's super huge. Like, this is nothing. This kind of pain of like, do the work, that's nothing compared to the pain from that it wasn't done on time. And so getting people, this is a time thing. Somebody's going to do it anyway, but getting them to do it sooner, that's huge. Do it now, getting them to do it sooner. Helping somebody really see why sooner is better. Well, I mean, better late than never. It's like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe late's not that great. Maybe now is great. Maybe late's not great. So, okay, the question is how to find out what trigger or pain point moves people from pre-contemplation. Okay, so let's go back here. What moves people from pre-contemplation is accurate information. So what people in pre-contemplation do, Donna, is they are overestimating how hard it will be to change, and they are underestimating the benefits of changing. So right now in Launch Club, if somebody stands up and says, I can do this, I did this in my last launch, and we think we can hit 6 figures, we all just go, yeah, that's possible. Okay, everybody else out there is saying, you can't go from having, a part-time job where you're making 10 grand to a year or two later making 100,000. Are you kidding me? That's how they are. And they might believe that until somebody says, well, yeah, it's not an overnight thing, but where you're going to be in 2 years doing what you're doing right now, you did this and you put this amount of time into it every week, every month, every year. It's really realistic for you to be able to get to this point. And this is where testimonials come in. Here's what Cammie McBride did. Here's what so-and-so did. Here's what so-and-so did. And it isn't really like they're just like me. It's more like I can do that. Like the stuff they did is stuff I can do if you do the right stuff for a certain amount of time. So you're really helping them with accurate information because they are underinformed. It's all out of whack. Way too little benefit, way too much cost. And you're like, it's not going to cost you that much, and the benefits are going to be like that. It's not going to cost you as much as you think, and the benefits are going to be like that. Notice there, you're not going into the cost of the void very much. It's probably inappropriate for somebody in pre-contemplation. If somebody had said to me, Julie Helmrich, if you don't launch, you won't, you will be sobbing 5 years from now that you don't have enough money for a family member. I would go like, really? I think my family's fine. Everybody like, whatever. They're not wealthy, huge people with boatloads of money, but they're good. But that wouldn't have touched me. So in pre-contemplation, you're really trying to get people to go, really? Really? You're kidding. So in my world, I will say when somebody's in my office, I might say something like, have you ever known anybody who recovered from an affair, like an affair was going on, and the couple recovered from that, and on the other side, they not only had repaired all of it, but it was the best marriage that they'd ever had, like way better than even on their wedding day? And the person will go, no. And I go, I do. I know people like that. I know a lot of people like that. Is part of why I'm so hopeful about what can happen when people engage in an affair recovery process. And then right away they'll say, well, what do they do? So then I tell them, and then I say, this is not easy work. If it's really done though, Like, is it easy work? Can you do this in a week? No, you can't do it in a week. I mean, that's a lie. Could you do it in 5 or 6 months, the affair recovery part? Yeah, if you're both into it, you could get to where you basically have repaired that hole enough to be able to work on the marriage issues that were present before the affair happened. How long will that take? That's probably another 1.5 years or so. I mean, you're going to, and so then I usually say, you know, in 2 years, you're going to have something. I mean, if you do this, you might have a first-class marriage. That's entirely possible. And they're still in pre-contemplation going, really? Yeah, really. Yeah. I know a guy who, and then this is where you come, I know a guy who, you know, I got this call, this happened, she's having an affair. He tweeted it out to everybody. That was in February. They got married in September. No way. Also, they worked on it. That's a true story. So this pre-contemplation, you're like, it's possible. They're uninformed, underinformed, and in my world, they're almost always demoralized, like, yeah, well, I tried talking to him, it doesn't work. Well, I said something to her about it, she doesn't believe me. So they're demoralized. And I mean, I will often ask people in couples counseling, I find out what they're an expert in. If Donna was in my office, I would say, Donna, talk to me about yoga, talk to me about vegetables, talk to me about blenders. And, you know, she would like, in her head, she would be going, good, because I hate talking about this marriage problem. I'm not saying you have a marriage problem, Don, I'm just using you. And then she would go into something, and somewhere in there I would say, hey, if I needed to borrow a book on yoga from you, could I? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I have a list of 40 you could use. Okay, good. And then I might say something like, how many books on relationships have you read cover to cover? And she's going to say, none. Okay. Like, who are you discussing what you're going through in your marriage with? I mean, do you have, like, I don't know, a sister who's great? Do you have, you know, like minister or somebody, or I don't know, is there somebody wise in your world that over the years you've been sort of sitting down with them going, this is really hard stuff. What do you do? No, I don't do it. Okay. So what you're seeing is she's in pre-contemplation. Avoiding talking about it, avoiding thinking about it, avoiding reading about it. That's pre-contemplation. So then, like, an intervention is like, well, you want me to text you a book you could flip through, or here's a white paper, or like on my Facebook or on my website, you have to look for it a little bit. But there's a white paper on affair recovery. It just describes the really hard process to go through. In fact, I always hope that maybe I'm preventing an affair or two because of the mess that it creates. Like, don't do it. Like, really, there's a better way to fix a marriage. Like, having an affair, not so good. So anyway, trigger point, yeah, move them from pre-contemplation. So that's the get them accurate information, because they're overestimating pain and they're underestimating pleasure. So, you know, move both of those points. Different than this group, though. This group is not overestimating pleasure. They got that. They also have the pain up here. They're two very different groups. You are irritating to people when you are telling them, I'm just going to use you again, Donna, since I know you'd let me. If you tried to talk me into, I'm in contemplation with respect to vegan stuff. I could write a really powerful, probably text message at least, about all of the benefits of vegan lifestyle. This is the problem. The problem is the pain points are too high. So really, to move me from, you know, thinking about it into acting, somehow helping me understand it's not that hard. It's not as hard as you think. It will be easier. You can manage this better. You know, do you have any idea what might happen to you diabetes-wise, or your joint pain is probably about protein, animal protein, Julie. I mean, I don't know. How long do you want to walk around with walking sticks? So, you know, it's about bringing the cost of doing the change down, because the benefit is already high. Don't need to be convinced. So bringing that cost down for people in contemplation, there is no free lunch. And you say, there is no free lunch, but it doesn't cost as much as you think. It's not as hard as you think. It is hard, but not as hard as you think. It will take a while, but not as long as you think. So, you know, when people are in contemplation, The copy, the conversation is about bring the pain point down, bring the cost of changing down. In preparation, the only thing you have to do in preparation is just like they're ready to go. Like just, you can just let them start a little something. Give them a little something. Yeah, I think we don't spend enough time with the people who are in chronic contemplation. I think that's just think about that. So I write here, profound ambivalence. I mean, think about the shame and the guilt that comes out of that place of like, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. Well, it's because it's hard to do, but it's not as hard as you think. Yeah, but, well, realistically, how many hours did I put into the last launch? Like, it was a lot. Maybe I put in 40, 60. Hey, Donna, you know what? Do you mind just typing in there? That's a real question. On launch week, yeah. How much time? You guys probably put it in ahead of time, don't you? You probably put in a lot of time. I'm not sure. Everybody knows absolutely that the workload goes up, right? Pre-launch. In the pre-pre and in the pre-launch, the workload is up. How much is it up? See, this would be an accurate estimation. Like, is it up? Do I have to not sleep at all for 4 weeks? No. But what is the change to my life? Well, you can't go on a trip. Okay. Except some people say they are launching while they're in Tahiti. So, that would be, Donna might have left. I can't tell. So that's the thing to think about is like, bringing the pain point down is like talking to somebody who really knows and they can actually give you accurate information, not lying information. Piece of cake, won't take you any time. Okay, so see, Donna is saying 15 to 20 hours per day launch week. Now, who's had one of those weeks already in your silly day job life? Yeah, I have. Have I done one of those weeks for 2 or 3 weeks in a row in my silly day job life? Yes, I have. So you already know you can do it, right? So that's bringing one of the pain points down. I can do this. So, around here, I've been walking around saying, I can do this. I did a graduate degree in psych. I remember those days. I have a PhD in clinical psych. Are you kidding me? I got 207 credits in 4 years, or that wasn't whatever it was. But it was like, really, I did that. I did that for 4 years. I don't have to do it for 4 years here. I can do that for whatever amount of time it takes. So there isn't any sort of pretending that you don't want to lie to people who are in contemplation. Like, it's a free lunch. It's not a free lunch. They know that. That's why they're not acting. So what they need, again, better estimates of the possibility and better estimates of the pain. Like, give them really good information, really accurate information, and then help them think that through. So let's see, Daria was on earlier. I don't know if she still is, but so Daria in dentistry, right? And helping dentists build practices, or I don't really know your business, Daria, but let's take something as simple as this idea for people in business. Their external success tends to map onto their internal capacities. And as that improves, generally their external success improves. Well, how long does it take for somebody to kind of get that stuff going? I can tell you if somebody is like a super angry, bitter, not even super angry, but bitter, kind of low-level anger, and they're in business, like that's a short-term idea. Like I'll give you an example from my life. The building that I'm in right now, there used to be a coffee shop. The owner, friend of a friend, so, a woman, like, got to support the locals, got to support the women, get in there, buy from her. She had a sort of a low-level kind of anger and that she didn't deal with. And because she didn't deal with it, I was gone for 2 or 3 weeks not out of town, but I don't know why I wasn't in her shop. But when I came back into her shop, she looked at me and she said, "Where have you been?" And it was like getting a scolding because you've been out too late on a date. And I was taken aback, like, what? Well, I depend on people like you. Yeah. So guess how much business she got from me after that? Not so much. Now, if she had said, I'm losing customers because I'm a little too bitter, what do I do about that? And how long will it take me? Because, man, I hate my dad and my mom and I don't even know the background on it. Like, how long would that? I could say to her realistically, 12 weeks. Yeah, I could say, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but you could work on that little low-level bitterness that makes people not want to give you their money. Like, you think that's going to be like laying on a couch for 4 years and talking about your grandfather? No, it's going to be going through a forgiveness process, working on it for like a commitment for about 12 weeks. Not in a like, yeah, when I want to, but like, it's kind of your part-time job. Part-time job, 12 weeks. That's going to come way down. Okay, that's a realistic estimate for working on a particular thing that might be interfering with business. That would help somebody if, I don't think she was ever in contemplation. I think she was in problem, what problem? I think she still is in problem, what problem mode. She's probably, let's go back here. She's in this sort of not very agreeable generally in life. And problem, what problem? The problem is the world, not me. Alrighty then. So if she was asking for help, if she was moving towards, if you wanted to try to get her attention, and if she had said to me, like, if she had said to me, like, you haven't been in here, I would have said, yep, I've been a little less attracted to coming in here because there's an edge on you and I don't need that first thing in the morning. And she would say, edge? Wait, what? Edge? What edge? Then I would give her some examples, and she would be a little more informed. And if she said, well, what do I do about that? I would say, like, you want to know something? Like, you could read one book probably, and if you studied it, it'd take you a little while to get through, but probably in about, 10, 12 weeks, you could have you could get through that a little bit. Done? Would you get done? No, but you get a little bit of freedom in that. So the thing is, the thing you're trying to teach, you have a realistic idea of the benefits and you have a realistic idea of how long it will take. And in pre-contemplation, people aren't unmotivated and resistant. You have to think like they don't really know. They don't really know. Like, here's the thing in America, let's just take guns. 80% of us don't have guns. I'm just putting that out there for those of you who are not Americans and for those of you who are Americans. If you feel like everybody you know has a gun, that's because of the crowd you're running with. Most of us don't have guns. It's something like 2% have 80% of the guns. Like, I'm not sure. I think put those folks on an island and target practice. Let them just shoot whatever they want to. I don't care. But it's not most people. Also, people who are frightened, I need to get a gun because, the world is falling apart, going to hell in a handbasket. Actually, one of the safest times to be alive on the planet, especially if you compare it to feudal France, where people were dying before they were 30. What? Wait, what? It's the safest time to be on the planet? Kind of is, except for climate change. Climate change? What are you talking about? Well, you see those glaciers melting? Probably has to do with your car, my car, our cars. No way. What? Really? Yeah, probably does. Pre-contemplation, I always think of these as like, they're sort of public service announcements. Like, I didn't know that. It's like, instead of thinking of people as unmotivated, think of them as like underinformed or poorly informed or misinformed. And so moving from pre-contemplation to contemplation is working on that. Get them accurate information. This is where the science of whatever you're doing is really important, I think. As much as people look down on science, most people are still moved by science if it's presented well. So, like, this is science. If you don't use this, like, seriously, who do you know? Even Jeff Walker hasn't done this kind of research. Come on, this is 30 years and $60 million have gone into showing that this is how people change. So we shouldn't really debate this too much. Just use it. And, as I said before, use it for good. Okay. I'm doing all the talking. And I'm just checking. Lisa, there were no questions early on. Okay. So, all right. Good enough? All right. Oh, okay. Wait, I forgot I was going to do. how do I want to sort of bring this up to you? I think the fourth one, where is that slide? This is, so, there's one more webinar next Sunday, and then there's one the last day of November, because I said I want to be done by the end of November. We're going to go through this part and think about it at a product level and parts of your product. Jennifer gave me some really good, like, her way of thinking about that. And then that like exploded a bunch of ideas in my head about taking this individual change plan that I'm so familiar with in like a one-on-one or small group coaching setting, and thinking about which part of your product is doing the lifting in those areas. And I think there would be a way to sort of go through your product and see how to improve it so that people would get better results. And if they get better results, that should help you in getting more people signed up. I was thinking about a really simple thing about this stages of change. I believe, but I'm not sure of these numbers. I think Jeff says regularly that in his world, that in the world out there, about 20,000 people, I think, that might be low, have gone from pre-contemplation into contemplation in the sense that they purchased PLF. Then the question would be, how many people have been able to go around this long enough that they basically live over here in launch life? And these 8 steps right here will make a big difference in terms of the actual products. And I think the marketing in terms of the marketing from pre-contemplation into contemplation into preparation, I think that's where really good marketing comes in. And then this is the product that hopefully keeps everybody motivated enough to stay in this spiral long enough that they up level up here to a automatic, their lifestyle is automated. It's solid, it's permanent. Anyway, there you go. That's how I look at this science for our world of launched life. And it's 10:16. I'm perfectly willing to stay longer if there are questions. So, and I know there's a delay, so I'll wait for a minute to give you time to think about that. And I'll just smile at you while you're thinking and typing, or maybe you're not. You're welcome, Donna. I like how you spell you. You. I'm going to answer for Lisa. You're welcome, Mike. Lisa says you're welcome too. Thank you, Marie. Glad that that's working for you. Oh, another little request for you here is like, yes, Deborah. Deborah is an art teacher, I believe, if it's the same Deborah I'm imagining is here. And she's has been taking a lot of stuff that I, try to give out through Shrink and Drink and other places. And she's not only, she says she's transferring it to her world of being an art educator in a high school, but she's really transforming the entire school system. I mean, she may or not know that, but she's been recruited to teach teachers how to teach. And just think about that, an art teacher is being recruited to teach like math and science people how to teach. Like those worlds don't meet. And yet her willingness to kind of understand how human beings really work and to bring that into art and taking, like I think an interesting thing that what Deb has done is this, really helping people understand what taking action in terms of making stuff, creating, making art, like what that will do for them in just about every area of your life. And she's working in I'm just going to keep it simple, like a blue collar kind of high school where her classrooms are filled up with kids that want to learn art, blue collar. We're not talking, shop where they're learning welding or stuff. So it's amazing. Anyway, I'm always glad to have you be a part of stuff, Deb. Let's see, what else? Okay. That's where we're trying to get to. Automatic. Oh, I have a request for you. I forgot. That's where I was in the middle of that. This is just to help with the transition thing that's maybe going on. But if you would do me the favor of keeping your comments about these particular webinars just on the Facebook page that you're in, as opposed to Launch Club, I think that will help. I mean, you can tell people in Launch Club about this if you want, but not on the Launch Club page. I think that would help a kind of a policy thing that is underway. I'll just leave it at that. How's that? Okay. Yes. Art teacher, learning to learn. Thanks. Okay. I'm always curious, but I never, this is a psychologist to me. I try to not pry into people's lives, but I'm always curious, like, well, what was the impact of what you're learning here? How are you going to apply it? I just feel like that puts people under a kind of pressure, but if you want to talk about it, dump that into the chat box. That would be cool too.
Or on the Facebook page.
Oh yeah, right. And Elisa says, so on the Facebook page specifically set up for this series of webinars, yeah, it would be great to have you put the impact there too. It'll educate me. Like super mind-blowing what Jennifer Brenton got out of the last webinar. Super cool. Okay, I'm going to wait for 60 more seconds, and then I'm going to hit end. And so if you're ready to go, I won't be saying anything else except responding to any question that might come up in the next minute or so. And also, you know what, thanks for being here, because I really do believe entrepreneurs and people with entrepreneurial mindsets, like, they really do think we're changing the world. And I think what's needed is what we're doing. So will you make this webinar available? I missed the first half and love it. Yeah, Mike, this will be the replay. So what will happen next, Mike, is Lisa will cut off the first 15 minutes of me babbling. We just do that so people can get their tech ready. So she will edit it, cut that off. Takes a little while to do that. And then she will render it. There's a lot of tech stuff to do to make this stuff kind of easy. And plus she has to watch a Packer game today. It's American football. That starts at noon. It's at noon. So that starts in like an hour and a half. So that can't happen between noon and 3 our time. But it will be up. So the replay will be up, and the edited version will be up under 24 hours, maybe sooner. And then you can watch it. And the first one is there too. So same thing. The edited version is there on the website. And we'll keep that Facebook page open for, maybe like a week or so after the last webinar. So, that group will probably be open until, I don't know, maybe the first week of December. And then we'll just shut it down. So you'll have some time to do the replays. Thanks for saying that you loved it, Mike. I appreciate that. Nobody else. Okay. The main argument against Webinar Jam, which is the company the software creators, is the time delay, right? So I talk and you hear me later. I'm not sure if that works for GoToWebinar. I don't know. Okay, let's call it quits. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for joining. If you don't remember, I'm Dr. Julie Helmrich. I'm a psychologist here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.